What? Oh.
Yeah. One of us is going to have to change.
Fine.
I said one of us is going to have to change.
Yeah, one of us.
We'll both change.
Whatever.
Hey, all you cinema buffs out there, Nate and Dennis bringing you our review of Spider-Man Homecoming. So, this Comic Signal here in Grand Rapids, a comic book store, was kind enough to give us advance screening tickets to Spider-Man Homecoming and let us shoot in their wonderful establishment. So thanks to the Comic Signal. If you want to know more about them, just check out the comments below. So, let's just get right into it, man.
All right.
Spider-Man Homecoming, this is a big one.
Yeah, I was really anticipating this one. I mean, after Batman, Spider-Man is my favorite comic book character, definitely my favorite Marvel character.
Yeah.
And especially after seeing Tom Holland last year in Civil War, got a little taste of what this new Spider-Man was going to be like. So last year we liked his little bit in Civil War,
Very
but
much.
This time around, Tom Holland had to carry the whole movie. So how do you think he did it?
I think he did a great job. I actually was a little bit worried with the trailer. I was okay with the trailer. I just was a little bit wary of whether or not he was going to be able to hold this whole movie. And I really like this rendition of Peter Parker. I like that he's really young. He's 15 years old, and you can really get that sense that he's a kid. He's immature. He just doesn't really know what to do with the power that he's been given, basically.
Yeah, I think that this is with the previous Spider-Man before, with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I always liked Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I didn't really like his Spider-Man, and I didn't like Andrew Garfield much in the Amazing Spider-Man.
He just didn't portray Peter Parker.
Yeah, he was just too. Yeah, he was too cool to be Peter Parker, and he's just a little too cocky as Spider-Man.
Right.
But I think Tom Holland struck a perfect balance between like Peter Parker is a nerd again, but he's not like the nerd that everybody dumps on. Like, you got Flash Thompson. Great turn by Tony Revolori. I like what they did.
I really like Flash as well. Yeah.
But I think that the comedy from Spider-Man when he's fighting, I think that it was really good this time around.
Really quippy.
Yep, and it's not corny jokes or anything like that, or just like that was the things that didn't work in the previous Spider-Man movie were the jokes as Spider-Man. But I think that he really carried this movie. He did a fantastic job. If you liked him in Civil War, you'll love him in this one.
I agree, and that's one thing. Just leading into that, I have to commend is the comedy in this film. This is a funny movie.
Yes.
Like through and through, all the jokes hit. There's never those sort of fall flat jokes where you're like, this is kind of awkward. They're all really funny, and I attribute that a lot to the casting, the characters, them really feeling like they're in high school, and really his best friend, the character of Peter Parker's best friend, steals the show in every scene that he's in.
Yeah, Jacob Batalon, I believe is his last name, portrays Ned Leeds, one of Peter Parker's many friends, and I like that they didn't go the familiar route. They learned from their mistakes with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, where it's just like retreading all the same plots over and over again.
Yeah.
But with this one, they brought new characters in, they brought some new lifeblood, and they brought a bunch of side characters that fans of the comics will recognize. You'll see Betty Brant in there. You see a little bit of Miles Morales in there. You know, you see all these other characters, and I'm just glad that that's what they're doing with this. They're bringing new material. They're really breaking out all the Spider-Man lore.
That's right, and they didn't waste any time telling the whole story origin of Spider-Man, how he got bit by the spider, the Uncle Ben. We all know this already, so really you dive right into this story. And what did you think about the story, about the plot? We're not going to go into any spoilers here whatsoever. We're just going to give our general thoughts of how we felt about it.
I liked how the plot dealt with Peter Parker trying to balance high school life with superhero life, and what he really wants from being Spider-Man, what he really wants from being Peter Parker. And I think that's the base appeal of Spider-Man, is that internal conflict of he likes his normal life, he wants to live his normal life, but at the same time, he's Spider-Man. He feels he has to do this.
Yeah, he wants to be a kid, but he has to be Spider-Man. And I think that they balanced it well in Spider-Man 2, but in a different way. In Spider-Man 2, it almost seemed like a curse. In this one, he really embraces it. Like, he wants to be Spider-Man. He wants to be working for Tony Stark. He wants to be given missions, but he's not ready yet. And so I think it had its own personality in that way, where it wasn't retreading old material, in my opinion. It always felt fairly fresh. And like, in comparison, not to the comic books, but to the other movies, I suppose. You could tell they steered away from a lot of the cliches.
Right. It feels like with this one, he's given a new toy, but he's told he has to do his homework first before he can play with it.
It's a really good way of saying it, yeah.
The villain, great turn by Michael Keaton. I mean, Michael Keaton's fantastic. He is, our generation's Batman. So
Yeah.
just to see him play a villain this
love
time,
Michael Keaton, yeah.
and he really chews up the scenery. Michael Keaton's performance is great.
He is.
But just the same Marvel thing all over again, where it's the villain's just a little weak.
He's just not given enough. I mean, I wasn't completely sold on the motivations. And once again, we're not going to get into his motivations. I just wasn't sold on them.
No. It seemed like he turned from like just a working class guy, like a guy you can sympathize with, to villain, like that.
Yeah,
It's just,
it really was.
It didn't really give enough time to develop.
The action scenes are great. There are some really good, cool action scenes. And it's really, I think, more of the appeal of the special effects in the action is when Spider-Man is learning his new suit, his abilities, learning how to use this thing, and the comedy that comes with it. But when it comes to the big action set pieces, the action at times was a little hard to follow for me. It was a little too shaky, a little too dark. You notice in the trailer there's the big boat scene. I was fine with that one. That was very easy to understand in my opinion. But there are a few scenes in the sky and at nighttime that I was just like, I don't know where I am right now, and it was just a little too much.
Yeah. Sometimes the action can be a little shaky and just kind of hard to follow. And also, there wasn't any really standout moments. I will say that about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. There's a standout moment. Spider-Man
train
action.
scene.
Just the train scene in Spider-Man 2 is some of the best action ever put to film.
Totally.
And so just there wasn't really any memorable moments like that. But I like what they did with this movie, and I like that the action wasn't bland though. It's not nothing, like I said, there's nothing standout, nothing really memorable, but I'm not sitting here just like, oh, it's whatever, he's flying around and blah.
Yeah.
No, it was entertaining, but just sometimes hard to follow.
Yeah, and it's a fairly long movie, but it never felt long. This is really well paced.
No,
For a Marvel movie, it's incredibly well paced.
Yeah, and I think that because when you take a break from the action and get into the character, I think they did better with developing the character, not only of Peter Parker, but the characters around him. And the comedy keeps this movie moving.
Totally.
Buffs. All right, Nate, so I think it's safe to say you and I both really enjoyed Spider-Man. Why don't you go ahead and tell us how much by putting a number on it?
All right, well, I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was great. It was so awesome to get these advanced tickets because you're just loaded in the theater with just fans, just people that are so excited to see this movie. And I will say that this is the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. And I will give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2, and it's one of those things where you're watching this movie and you might have your few complaints and imperfections about it. This isn't a perfect movie, but you're sitting there, you're having so much fun, and you're laughing your head off. So it's very enjoyable. I'm going to go just a little bit above you and say 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was wondering if DC would outshine Marvel this summer with Wonder Woman over Spider-Man, and it did, but just by a touch.
Right.
Marvel's still right on the tail there.
Right, yeah, and it's great after 2016 where we had some disappointing comic book movies, Deadpool and Civil War aside.
Yeah.
It's good to see this year so far so good. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, Wonder Woman, and now Spider-Man.
Logan.
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So really looking forward to Justice League, Thor, Kingsman. All these comic book movies coming out. Buffs.
All right, so that's our review of Spider-Man Homecoming. We want to do a special thanks to the Comic Signal for having us out here, letting us shoot in their shop, and for the advanced tickets. If you love comics movies, you got to come check it out. There's more information below in the comments.
Yeah, and be sure to join us next week. 4th of July is coming up. We're going to wrap up the first half of 2017, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we're looking forward to moving forward. But until then, don't you forget,
There's no place like the theater.